couple weeks now, but now that you're 2 days away, what is the excitement level at? What's the energy you've been at practice like these last couple days?
Well, I think it's about the same. I mean, it's contained. I think the way we handle things, we do it in a way that we celebrate the fact that we're going to play, but at the same time we understand that it's going to come upon us. The days that we're training to get ready for that are just as important as the games themselves.
This is year 20 for you at Vanderbilt. Each year, is there a little bit of a different feeling for you? Same feeling, or do you still get kind of goosebumps or butterflies before the first game?
Yeah, most definitely. But I think as the years go by, I just get more grateful because you understand that if you're a guy that, not that I'm old, but a guy my age, and to have a longevity at a place and to be around a consistent environment, it's certainly a gift, and I don't take it for granted. And I understand that you really have to invest well in order to do that because it's rented space. I mean, anyone can come in here and have the opportunity that I have or have the opportunity that the boys have. So I make that clear to myself and I make it clear to them too. But I just think I'm more grateful that with every year that passes by.
Since this season is so long and, like sometimes a 4.5 month season, what are like the key indicators that you're looking for, early on in this series, considering that your team could be quite a bit different, like 3-4 months from now? I imagine there's probably more process oriented than otherwise.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's always been that way. You need to get to a starting point. The starting point obviously is Friday. And I think from the starting point, then it's just a building process of how much you can grow from that time to the end of the year. I think the success of a group is based on how much of the potential you can bring out in that group. And whether the measurement is what we want or what any of us want, it's going to be what it is. But the reality is, if you can just see their potential through, then that really is a successful year. Whether it's good enough to be better than anyone else, you just have to live with that. It kind of is what it is as far as their talent levels, but how much we can build upon their talent levels and how much you can take their talent levels and unify them so you create harmony in that space, this space, across the street, then you build upon something that has a chance to be pretty good.
Speaking of seeing that potential, what does playing a top team like Oklahoma State right out of the gates, first opening series of the weekend, a top team like that, what are the benefits of seeing that potential of your team and getting to know what your team can do against somebody else?
Yeah. Well, not to minimize any other team that will play, but I think anytime you play against a known opponent that has an opportunity to play in Omaha, has players that are very capable of playing in Omaha, coaching staff that's very capable of coaching in Omaha and has done that, then I just think it's great. Like for all of us, when we operate in environments where other people are pushing us, then we tend to show our best selves, or we show ourselves in an area where we know that we need to improve. So I think playing Josh, and I love Josh Hall, and he's an assistant here, and I learned so much from him, and I still do to this day, and just admire his family. So having he and his group here, we just like the fact that we can play high-level people, and this is a high-level organization.
Have you determined your starting rotation this weekend yet?
Yeah, we did. We went with Chris on Friday, Chris McElvain on Friday, Nick Maldonado on Saturday, and Carter Holton on Sunday. But it's definitely going to be a group effort. We know that. Those are the three guys that are starting the game. But after that, it really doesn't mean much. It's going to be a total team pitching effort.
So would you expect, like, for instance, Riley and Little to potentially, be long relievers this weekend and come out of the pen, or more likely, midweek starter type of thing?
No, they have to be ready to pitch. I think everyone on that staff, don't look ahead too much. So, you're looking at Friday as its own game, and then once you get done with Friday, then it moves to Saturday and so on. So where you can kind of get into a season and develop some known roles and then understand that maybe you can kind of plan ahead. We can't do that right now just because we don't really have any known roles outside of the 3 people that I mentioned that we're going to start.
How much else is unsettled in terms of personnel decisions?
You know, I don't know if it would be unsettled, Chris, as much as it's just a lot of different variables and a lot of different guys that could get on the field. And I think, to me, that's settling rather than unsettled. Actually, I don't really want them to think it's settled.
Yeah.
And I would tell them that, just because I don't think that bodes well for a team. I think what bodes well for a team is getting to the ballpark every day, and even though your name may not be on a lineup chart, is understanding that you have an opportunity to participate in the game. And I feel like, to me, that's more unifying, it's more gratifying, it's more fulfilling for the team. And before anything else here at Vanderbilt, you have to understand what a team role is before you understand what a playing role is, because a team role is what they're going to end up adopting in their life when they become a parent or a husband or what have you. And if you don't understand what a team role is there, then you're not going to be very good at what you do in the family aspect of it. And you need to understand that here.
What you're doing? Go ahead.
Yeah,
Are
go ahead.
Riley and Little injured, or are they fine just not pitching this game?
No, they're great. Yeah, they're doing well. But we've got some pieces that are very, very comparable, very close to one.
For you, this is kind of an unusual approach to your pitching going into the weekend. And you've obviously had a luxury of having some special kids, and that may not be a fair comparison. But you watch playoff baseball, you see how things go in tandem. How much of watching that influences what you've done here, or is this just what was best for the team under these circumstances, kind of thing, with piecing it together?
I wouldn't say that it doesn't influence me. I think you tend to start to think of other ways to skin a cat, so to speak, in terms of how you utilize your pitching. But I think from this standpoint, especially where we are right now in the season, it just makes sense to create a group that's going to help one another. And I think, you can't really, you try to design it a certain way. It never falls by the design. So I feel like we'll kind of know what we're going to do based on the volume that we get from a player, and then the next person steps in right behind them and goes. But I think for a period of time, Chris, it's gonna be that way. We're gonna link up and just have to pitch as a group.
Speaking of that kind of next man up, speaking of that next man up, you do have a lot of younger faces on the team, over 16 freshmen,
Yep.
I believe. But year after year, despite losing players in the draft, graduation, you've found a way to be able to coach a team and fill those shoes of the team before them and continue that success. How have you been able to do that? Is there sort of a formula that you have found successful when it comes to getting a team ready to continue the success of this program?
Yes, but I think it starts long before now. I think it starts the minute you get here in August and trying to put together a team and understanding that in order to do so, you've got to be very foundational. It's a new chapter every year, so it's like if you picked up a chapter of 19 or 20 and 21, those chapters are closed. Now the 21, 22 chapter is starting, but what that chapter contains is a lot of experiences of kids that have been here before and understand how to put the start of the season together. And that start of the season does. It begins in August, and there's building blocks there. I would feel very, very anxious if we got to this point right now and we didn't have a predetermined idea of what our routines were leading up to these moments right here. It's something that a lot of classroom time, it's a lot of teaching time, a lot of lesson time, and I just feel like that's the area right there. It might not even be on the field. It's what is communicated, what's rehearsed, what is modeled inside those walls first before you get down in the field and start playing.
And based off of what you've seen from August, from this offseason, from your younger faces, how confident are you in your younger players?
I'm confident in them. I am. I'm just confident how they'll handle themselves. I think the younger players, though, and I think you can say this in basketball too, in college basketball, they're a little bit different than they were maybe 10 or 15 years ago, where I wouldn't say maturity, but their maturity once they get on the field is elevated to some degree. They handle attention, I'm not going to tell you that their acumen for the game is that good, because it's not. They just don't watch as much baseball as they used to. But I would say once they get out here, their comfort of being out here is a lot more comfortable. And it probably has a lot to do with, since these kids have been born, there's been a camera stuck in their face ever since they came out of the womb. So it's like, hey, look at me. I love this attention. And for that, I think that's good. Now, we have to talk them off that ledge in other areas when they want that attention, because we're not seeking attention in this organization. Not that type of attention.
I saw that Myles Garrett isn't on the roster anymore. He's not in the transfer portal. What happened there, I guess?
I mean, he's not on the roster right now.
I think I can count on one hand the number of times you put a freshman out to start in your rotation on the first weekend. What's that say about Carter Holton?
Savvy, poised. He's got skill. Throw strikes, and trustworthy. I think that's the thing. I think, Chris, when you put a person out there, you trust him. And if you don't trust him, you don't put him out there. And I wanted to see how he handled himself against North Carolina when we put him out there in the fall, and he was fine. But I just think you would never put a kid in a position to represent the team if you didn't think he was ready to represent the team. So he's out there for a reason.
I know he's taken some ground balls at first. Is that an option right now? Is that just a play with it and have that in reserve in case?
Yeah, I think there's always those matchups that you're looking for that you could create where you could put a guy on the field, maybe use him, and then get him on the mound and so on. So it's an option for sure, and he likes it. And he's that kid too that you want to keep busy because he's got some energy.
Coach, thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Appreciate
your
it.
questions. I appreciate it.